The studio lights gleamed brightly, casting long shadows on the sleek, modern set of prime spotlight with James Thatcher. The air crackled with anticipation as the audience packed into the seats, their murmurs a mix of excitement and curiosity. Tonight's guest was no ordinary figure. This was Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur who had redefined industries, sparked countless debates, and set his sights on nothing less than humanity's future. But sitting across from him was James Thatcher, a talk show host known for his razor-sharp wit and unapologetically provocative questions. The stakes were set for a showdown that promised nothing less than fireworks. As the clock struck 8, the familiar theme music blared, and the audience erupted into applause. James Thatcher, immaculate in a tailored navy suit, stepped forward with his trademark confident stride. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have the man who's been called everything from a modern-day Einstein to the tech industry's most unpredictable disruptor. Please welcome Elon Musk." The applause swelled, but there was an undercurrent of suspense in the room. Elon Musk strolled onto the stage, his relaxed demeanor almost disarming. Clad in a simple black jacket and a plain gray shirt, he looked more like an engineer who had just walked out of a brainstorming session than one of the richest men in the world. He greeted the audience with a polite nod, his calm presence starkly contrasting the charged atmosphere. Musk took his seat across from Thatcher, and the two men exchanged brief pleasantries, each gauging the other like chess players about to begin a high-stakes match. Thatcher leaned forward, his smile equal parts welcoming and predatory. "Elon, thank you for joining us tonight. It's not every day we get to sit across from a man who's aiming to reshape the future, or, as some would argue, playing God." The crowd chuckled nervously, sensing the subtle jab. Elon simply raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "Well, James, I'm just trying to solve interesting problems," he replied evenly, his voice calm but firm. Thatcher's grin widened. "Interesting problems indeed. From electric cars to reusable rockets, brain-computer interfaces, and even tunnels under major cities. Your resume reads like science fiction. But let's be honest, many think you're more of a reckless dreamer than a savior of humanity. What do you say to that?" The audience leaned in, their eyes darting between the two men. Musk tilted his head, considering the question. "Dreaming big doesn't make you reckless, it makes you hopeful. Progress comes from taking risks, not from staying comfortable." Thatcher chuckled, his tone sharpening. "Hopeful or delusional? Let's get real, Elon. Colonizing Mars, Neuralink, and AI-powered cities, are these genuine solutions for humanity or just billionaire fantasies?" The tension in the room thickened as the audience hung on Musk's reply. His eyes locked onto Thatcher's, the calm confidence in his gaze unshaken. They said electric cars were impossible. They said landing a rocket was insane. Yet here we are. Sometimes it takes one person's so-called delusion to change the world. With that, the stage was set. The opening exchange left everyone on the edge of their seats, eager to see how this clash of minds would unfold. Thatcher leaned back in his chair, clasping his hands together as though readying himself for a duel. The audience could feel the shift. This wasn't going to be a simple Q&A session. "Let's talk specifics, Elon," Thatcher said, his voice cool but laced with a challenge. "You've got people who adore you, calling you a visionary, but you've also got critics, lots of them, who think your ideas are wildly impractical. Let's take Mars, for instance. Billions spent on sending humans to a barren wasteland when there are plenty of problems right here on Earth. Why not focus on fixing this planet first?" Elon's expression didn't falter, but his posture straightened slightly, signaling his readiness to tackle the pointed critique. "James," he began, his voice steady, "Earth is our home, and I've never said we should abandon it. That's why Tesla exists, to create sustainable energy solutions for this planet. But survival isn't about putting all your eggs in one basket. If history has taught us anything, it's that species that fail to adapt or expand go extinct. Mars is not a luxury project. It's a life insurance policy for humanity. The audience erupted in applause, but Thatcher was quick to pounce. A life insurance policy? He repeated with a smirk. That's a nice metaphor, Elon. But we're not talking about a car or a home here. You're asking people to imagine leaving the only habitable planet they've ever known to live on a desert with no oxygen. Doesn't that sound a bit far-fetched? Musk leaned forward slightly, his hands clasped as if weighing his words carefully. It sounded far-fetched when we thought we couldn't fly. It sounded impossible when we thought we couldn't land on the moon. But here's the thing. Progress doesn't come from doing what's easy. It comes from challenging the impossible. Thatcher chuckled, though there was an edge to it now. Challenging the impossible? Or throwing money at pipe dreams? Let's not forget the criticism you've faced with Neuralink. Invasive brain implants? People have called it dystopian, even dangerous. What do you say to those who fear you're playing with fire? Elon's lips twitched in what might have been a faint smile. Technology is a tool, James. Fire itself was once feared, but it became essential to human progress. Neuralink is about improving lives, helping those with paralysis regain independence, for example. Yes, every technology has risks, but the greater risk is doing nothing and allowing suffering to continue. The audience murmured, some nodding in agreement, others still skeptical. Thatcher seized on the moment of division. But where do you draw the line? How do you reassure people you're not creating the next Frankenstein's monster? Elon's response came without hesitation. Transparency, collaboration, regulation. These aren't rogue projects, James. They involve some of the brightest minds in the world working together to ensure ethical boundaries are upheld. Fear of innovation shouldn't paralyze us. It should inspire us to do it right. The exchange was electric, the verbal sparring leaving the audience torn between admiration for Musk's vision and skepticism fueled by Thatcher's relentless probing. For every point Thatcher raised, Musk had a calm yet compelling counter-argument. The air in the studio was charged, and the audience could sense that the real showdown was just beginning. The conversation had already reached a boiling point, with Thatcher throwing curveball after curveball. Yet Elon Musk remained unshaken, countering each challenge with logic, foresight, and a touch of his trademark wit. But the next move was a departure from the professional. Thatcher leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as if he'd just drawn a hidden card from his deck. "Well, Elon," he began, his tone sharper, "we've talked about your companies and your vision, but let's discuss something more personal, your leadership style. Some call it revolutionary, others say it's toxic. Reports of extreme work conditions, mass layoffs, and even employees who fear speaking up against you. Is this what you mean by progress?" The room tensed. It wasn't just a critique, it was a pointed jab at Musk's character. The audience leaned in, awaiting the billionaire's response. Elon didn't react immediately. Instead, he took a deliberate pause, his gaze fixed on Thatcher, assessing him like an opponent in a chess match. "Leadership isn't about being liked, James," Elon began, his tone calm but with an undercurrent of firmness. "It's about achieving results that matter. Yes, I set high standards, extremely high in fact, but that's because the problems we're trying to solve aren't ordinary, they're monumental. People who join my companies aren't looking for a 9-to-5 job, they're signing up to change the world. And that requires sacrifices, not just from them, but from me too." Thatcher smirked. "So, are you saying the end justifies the means? That success gives you a free pass to push people to their limits?" Elon's demeanor remained composed. "No, I'm saying that meaningful work is hard. I don't ask my teams to do anything I wouldn't do myself. I've slept on factory floors, pulled all-nighters, and put everything I have on the line. But let me ask you this, James. What's the alternative? Mediocrity? Because I think the world deserves better than that." The audience broke into scattered applause, but Thatcher wasn't ready to back down. "That's a nice sentiment, Elon, but not everyone agrees. let's talk about the public perception. There's no denying you're a polarizing figure. People either see you as a genius or a tyrant. How do you respond to that? Musk leaned back slightly, a small, wry smile tugging at the corners of his lips. James, I've learned that if you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. Innovation requires bold decisions, and bold decisions attract criticism. I'd rather be polarizing and make an impact than be universally liked and accomplish nothing. The room was utterly silent now, save for the faint hum of studio lights. The tension was palpable, with Thatcher's frustration starting to show. He wasn't used to his guests holding their ground so firmly, and Musk's calm defiance seemed to be getting under his skin. But Thatcher had one more card to play. One last question, Elon. You've got all these ideas, all these companies, but do you ever stop to think about the toll it takes on the people around you, your employees, your critics, even your own family? At what point does ambition become selfishness? A ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. It was a deeply personal attack, one that could easily have rattled anyone else. But Musk didn't flinch. His eyes met Thatcher's, steady and unyielding. Ambition isn't selfish when it's in service of something bigger than yourself, Musk replied, his voice carrying a weight that silenced the room. I'm not perfect, James. I've made mistakes and I'll make more. But every decision I've made, right or wrong, has been driven by one goal: to create a future worth living in. If that makes me selfish, so be it. But I'd rather be criticized for trying too hard than for not trying at all. The audience erupted into applause, this time louder and more unanimous. Musk's words had struck a chord, cutting through Thatcher's pointed questions and leaving the host momentarily speechless. For the first time in the interview, it was Thatcher who seemed unsure of his next move. Thatcher, visibly unsettled by Musk's composure, shifted in his chair. He had intended to provoke a reaction, to make Elon stumble under the weight of his own words. Instead, Musk's replies had only solidified his stance, captivating the audience further. But just as it seemed Thatcher might retreat, he leaned forward with an almost conspiratorial smile. "All right, Elon," Thatcher said, his voice softer now but tinged with intrigue. "Let's step away from the corporate world for a moment. You've built rockets, electric cars, and even talked about colonizing Mars. But there's something that puzzles me. For a man who dreams so big, why do you often seem disconnected? Some say you lack empathy, that while you're busy planning for humanity's future, you've forgotten the humans around you. What do you say to that?" The question was sharp, almost accusatory, and for the first time a flicker of emotion crossed Musk's face. The room fell silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone present. It was no longer just a conversation, it felt personal, raw, and real. Elon took a deep breath, and when he spoke, his voice carried a rare vulnerability. "That's an interesting observation, James," he began, his gaze steady. "Empathy takes many forms. People assume it's about being warm and comforting, but I see it differently. To me, empathy is about action. It's about solving problems that others are too afraid or unwilling to tackle. If I seem disconnected, it's because I'm focused on ensuring that humanity has a chance to survive, to thrive." Thatcher, sensing an opportunity, interjected. "But doesn't that come at a cost? You've admitted to spending countless hours working, sometimes at the expense of personal relationships. Is that really worth it?" Elon's lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment it seemed like he might dodge the question. But then, with a quiet resolve, he leaned forward. "I've made sacrifices, yes. Some I regret deeply. But the alternative, doing nothing, staying comfortable while the world faces existential threats, is not an option. I'm not trying to be a savior, James. I'm just trying to do my part. And if that makes me seem disconnected, so be it. The audience was spellbound. For all his public appearances, this was a side of Elon Musk rarely seen. Vulnerable yet steadfast, acknowledging his flaws while standing by his convictions. Even Thatcher seemed momentarily at a loss, his usual bravado replaced by an uncharacteristic quiet. But the calm didn't last long. Just as the interview seemed to find its rhythm again, a voice called out from the audience. "Mr. Musk," the voice began, clear and unwavering, "if you're so focused on humanity's future, why haven't you done more to address its present? Poverty, inequality, climate change, aren't these issues just as urgent as colonizing Mars?" All heads turned toward the source of the question, a young woman in her 20s, her expression fierce yet composed. Thatcher's eyes lit up, seizing the moment to redirect the conversation. "Excellent question," he said, gesturing for Elon to respond. Musk turned toward the woman, his expression thoughtful. "You're absolutely right," he said, his tone measured. "Those issues are urgent, and I've tried to address them in my own way through renewable energy, sustainable transportation, and even philanthropy. But here's the thing. Tackling immediate problems doesn't mean we can ignore the long-term ones. Colonizing Mars isn't about escaping Earth. It's about creating a safety net for humanity. It's about ensuring we survive, no matter what challenges we face here." The woman nodded, though her expression remained skeptical. "But shouldn't you be doing more here and now?" she pressed. Musk smiled faintly. "I could always be doing more. We all could. But progress isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about taking steps, however small, toward a better future. And that's what I'll keep doing." The room broke into applause once more, though this time it was tinged with reflection. Musk's words had sparked a deeper conversation, one that went beyond the theatrics of the interview. Even Thatcher, for all his earlier bravado, seemed subdued, as if realizing that the man before him was not so easily reduced to sound bites. But just as the atmosphere began to settle, Thatcher leaned in with a mischievous grin. "All right, Elon. One last question," he said. "If you had to choose between saving Earth or colonizing Mars, which would it be?" The room tensed again, the weight of the hypothetical hanging in the air. Elon's response, however, was immediate. "Why choose?" he said simply, his tone light yet resolute. "We can, and should, do both. Humanity's survival isn't an either-or proposition. It's about expanding our horizons while preserving the ground beneath our feet. And I believe we're capable of doing both." The audience erupted into applause, the energy in the room reaching its peak. Even Thatcher, for all his earlier antagonism, couldn't help but join in, acknowledging the brilliance of Musk's vision. The interview had taken twists and turns no one could have predicted, but in the end, it was clear that Musk had not just held his ground. He had elevated the conversation to a level that left everyone in awe. The night wasn't just another interview, it was a testament to resilience, vision, and the power of staying true to one's mission, no matter the odds. As the final question settled in the air, the studio felt charged with an energy that words could barely contain. The debate had been fierce, the dialogue thought-provoking, and the atmosphere electric with raw, unfiltered emotion. Thatcher, always the showman, stepped forward, visibly eager to steer the evening to a memorable close. "Well, Elon," he said, leaning slightly toward his guest, "I think we can all agree tonight has been unexpected. But as our time draws to a close, I have one final question for you. What's the one message you want to leave with everyone watching? Whether they love you, hate you, or fall somewhere in between, what's the takeaway from tonight's conversation?" Musk leaned back in his chair, his face unreadable for a moment. The crowd held their collective breath, the cameras zooming in to capture the moment. When he finally spoke, his words carried a gravity that silenced even the most cynical among them. "My message is simple," Musk began, his tone measured yet firm. "Don't stop questioning. Don't stop dreaming. Whether it's about technology, the environment, or society as a whole, we only move forward by challenging ourselves and each other. It's not about agreeing on everything. It's about having the courage to debate, to innovate, and to act. Progress isn't perfect, but stagnation is unacceptable." Thatcher raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed by the succinct yet profound answer. "Spoken like a true visionary," he said, turning back to the audience. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Elon Musk is one of the most polarizing yet inspiring figures of our time. Tonight, we've seen a side of him that challenges the narrative. Whether you agree or disagree, you can't ignore him. The audience erupted into applause, rising to their feet in a spontaneous standing ovation. Even those who had entered the studio skeptical of Musk found themselves clapping, if not in agreement, then in acknowledgement of his unwavering determination. As the lights dimmed and the cameras turned off, Musk stood, shaking hands with Thatcher. Their earlier friction had given way to a mutual, if begrudging, respect. "Thanks for having me," Musk said simply. "Thanks for making it unforgettable," Thatcher replied, a rare sincerity in his voice. As Musk walked off the stage, the audience still buzzing with excitement, it was clear that the night had been more than an interview. It was a moment, a collision of ideas, perspectives, and personalities that would resonate long after the studio lights dimmed. The interview became an instant phenomenon. Clips of Musk's sharp rebuttals and impassioned answers flooded social media, sparking debates and discussions worldwide. People from all walks of life weighed in, dissecting every word, every exchange, every moment. News outlets picked it apart, with headlines ranging from "Elon Musk silences critics with powerful response" to "The showdown that redefined public perception of Elon Musk." Hashtags like Neither Musk debate and Thatcher vs. Musk trended for days, cementing the interview as one of the most talked about events of the year. For Musk, it was another chapter in his complex, often misunderstood legacy. But for viewers, it was a reminder that even the most controversial figures can surprise, inspire, and challenge us to think differently. And for Thatcher, the night proved to be a career-defining moment. A masterclass in how to navigate the fine line between entertainment and substance. In the end, the interview wasn't just about Elon Musk. It was about the power of ideas, the importance of dialogue, and the enduring impact of bold, unapologetic vision.